Welcome to the Grow Strong Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Meredith Bell, and I interview business leaders who are committed to their own growth and the development of everyone on their team. If you enjoy my podcast, be sure to subscribe and rate it on your favorite podcast platform. I'm glad you've joined me for another episode of the Grow Strong Leaders podcast. If you would like to learn how to use LinkedIn more effectively, you're going to love this episode. I have as my guest today someone who has used LinkedIn in very powerful ways to grow his own business for more than 10 years, and that is Bill McCormick. Bill, welcome to my show.
Meredith, thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to have this discussion with you. We're going to have a great time.
I know there's so much I want to learn in addition to having my listeners benefit. And before we jump in, a couple of things I want to do. One is thank Tom Perrone. He's the one who originally introduced us, and he is such a great connector. I've made so many wonderful friends as a result of him over the years, and Tom himself is just a wonderful person. So kudos to
Super
Tom
guy.
for
Yes.
sensing how you and I would connect so beautifully. And so let me tell my audience a little bit about you. Bill is the founder of DigiSales and the DigiSales Academy, which is an online video training platform where he shares his passion for helping professionals leverage the power of LinkedIn. Bill has conducted training for companies worldwide, and he specializes, and I love this, in helping to make LinkedIn human, explaining the platform in easy to understand ways. And since I've had a chance to go through a lot of his course, I can vouch for the fact that he has a very clear, simple approach to describing every element and gives lots of specific examples. So I knew exactly what I wanted and needed to do. And Bill also recently launched the All Selling is Social podcast. So, Bill, with that information, I would love for you to give a little bit more detail to how you actually got started in this journey of using LinkedIn.
Well, and again, thanks so much for having me. And when I hear you say all that, I'm like, wow, I do a lot. I'm tired. But no, seriously, I got into sales in the like mid 80s to 90s. I was in grocery sales, was fired from every sales job I ever had because I could never do it the right way. I wasn't the one to play the games and back in those days, it wasn't about your product or service. It was whether you could get the grocery manager Yankee tickets on the third baseline. I didn't like playing those games. And so I ended up in public service, long story short. And in 2013, my wife and I started our own company. My wife is in the print and promotional product space, and she had worked for a gentleman since 2000. So she'd worked with him and for him for 13 years, and he suddenly died. And to make a long story short, after 9 weeks of back and forth with his family about whether we would buy the business, which was his wishes, it didn't happen. We started our own company. My wife, who is not a salesperson at all, but has tremendous knowledge. I used to say that her boss, who was the owner of the company, because it was just the two of them, he was the overpromiser, and my wife Sue was the overdeliverer. And so everybody knew Sue. And that's who they talked to. That's who, if they had a problem, that's who they called. And so when we left and we started our own business, she needed to start growing the business. And rather than try to call people, she found that she could find them on LinkedIn. My wife is responsible for me getting involved in LinkedIn. And she had done some work with folks down in Bermuda, on the Isle of Bermuda, and we scheduled a trip there. And she made all of her appointments with LinkedIn. And people were finding her on LinkedIn because, think about it. When you leave a company, you leave behind your email address, your contacts, like all that. People don't know how to find you. LinkedIn becomes kind of that water cooler where people can now find you. And they did that. And so she was like, hey, you should check this LinkedIn thing out. And so I began to look at it. And I am kind of like a research guy. And so I started looking, okay, who can help me? Who can I find that's using LinkedIn and training people how to use LinkedIn? And I found some of those people and began to learn. and then began to put it into practice. And even though I worked another job at the time, after about a year and a half, so in 2015, I was able to leave my full-time job and come full-time working with my wife, where I really dove into LinkedIn and using it. Basically, I used it to find ideal clients. We worked with a lot of marketing professionals, and so that's who I was able to find. And then I would have networking meetings with people. And, I was part of BNI, I was part of a number of chambers. So I'd go on one-on-ones with people and they'd be, well, how are you growing your business? Oh, well, I'm using LinkedIn. And they're like, LinkedIn? How do you do that? And after the second or third time of doing that for free, I was like, I can charge people for this, right? So that kind of got me into that realm of doing it and becoming a student of the platform and finding out what works and what doesn't work for me, and beginning to train that in a way that helps people understand the platform, but allows them to be themselves on the platform. Because I think that's important. There's so many people out there that say do it this way. Like if you follow my 5-step plan, you'll be successful. Um, Listen, that worked for them. It's not necessarily going to work for you. And so I still help my wife out from time to time, but then I also have my own business where I'm able to help people. And I love being my own boss. There's less arguments that way.
Hmm. Yes. Well, I think that's so cool. And that was one of the things I have been enjoying as I go through your course is you give guidelines, but then encourage us to adapt it for what's, natural and appropriate for us. One of the things I'm curious about because of your wealth of experience, not to jump off on something negative, but I think it's important for my listeners to understand, what do you see people doing wrong in their use of LinkedIn? I'm sure it's a long list, but I would love to hear the more common things so that we can be thinking
Mhm.
in our heads, how can I avoid doing that? So I, am using it as well as I possibly can.
Yeah, and it can be a long list, but I think we have to start with understanding, why are you using LinkedIn? What are your goals? Because LinkedIn isn't one social media platform. What I like to say is LinkedIn is a lot like an American football team. An American football team isn't one team. It's really like 5 teams. We know the 3 common teams, which are the offensive team, the defensive team, and the special teams. But then there's a coaching team. And then there's also a support team. There's trainers, there's back office people.
Mm,
So all of them relate to the team in a different way. Well, LinkedIn isn't just one social media platform. It's a recruiting and job hunting site. That's how it got started. It got started so that recruiters, HR people in companies, as well as candidates, could all get LinkedIn and get positions filled to get people jobs. And so it's that platform. But then it's also a marketing platform where people market their products and services and companies and nonprofits to get the word out. It's a content platform where people share their content, share their ideas, share their influence. It's a sales platform, which that's what I specialize in, but it's where you can network with people. And that's why I say it's a networking room that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with over 1 billion members. So it's a networking platform. It's a training platform. There's people like me all over LinkedIn that are telling and helping other people learn how. So it's understanding not only why are you using LinkedIn, but understanding that the person you're reaching out to, they may be using LinkedIn for a totally different reason. So you have to understand that. But then also what people do wrong, in my opinion, is they make their profile all about them and how great they are, how great their company is, how great their service is, how, everybody says they have the greatest customer service. Well, when everybody says something, it doesn't mean anything. And so
mhm,
when you only talk about yourself, I hate to break this to your listeners. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your product. Nobody cares about the service. What do they care about? They care about whatever their struggles are, whatever their problems are.
mm,
That's what they care about. And so when I'm coaching someone about their LinkedIn profile, especially if they're using it for sales, for marketing, for networking, there's things that you want to do. You want to show your value. You don't want to boast, because trust is low. You think about the last bad experience you've had with a company. Go look at their website, and I guarantee they've got awards on their customer service, right? But that wasn't true for you. And so we have to understand that trust is low, and we have to come in with value first, right? So we want to, there's four things with your LinkedIn profile. You want to resonate with the right people, right? So you want to make sure that it's positioned so that when your ideal clients come, they get value from it. You want to educate them. You don't want to pontificate, I like to say.
Mm.
You don't want to be boastful. You don't want to lecture them. You want to educate them. What can you teach them? What kind of curiosity can you create where they go, huh, I want to know more about that. Then the third thing is you want to differentiate what separates you from everyone else out there, everyone else that does what you do. And then the fourth thing you want to do is communicate. Do they know how to contact you? And this is when you're looking at the desktop version of LinkedIn, there's a contact info that's a clickable link that you can click on and it pulls up. And I can't tell you how many people don't have anything filled out there, or they
Mm.
don't have an email list, an email address. But also, if you go to the mobile version, that's not there. You have to know where to look for it. So I tell people, where is your email address? It should be in your banner image. It should be in your about section. It should be in your experience section. Never never let someone have to struggle to find out how to contact you, right? So the fourth thing is to communicate. So when you do those things, I believe that with your profile, you position yourself where people, if and when they find you, they look and go, okay, I know who they help. That's me. I want to know more, right? So that's in terms of the profile. Do you want to talk about all the other things people are doing wrong on LinkedIn?
Yes, let's look specifically at connecting with other people
Yeah.
and what happens once you do connect. So let's talk about the initial outreach that you make. What can you do to enhance the chances that the person will accept your connection request? And then what's an appropriate way to message them once they do accept that request?
So LinkedIn about a year ago made this a little bit more difficult because they decided LinkedIn's really moving into a pay to play model where if you pay for premium service, you get more features. And one of the features you get are the ability to send more than five personal invites a month. So if you have basic and free LinkedIn, you can only send five notes per month, right? So when you reach out to someone, you send a note telling them why you want to connect. So let's push that aside for a moment and pretend that everybody can send a note, and then I'll deal with those that can't. But first thing is you want to find context to connect with the person, and selling to them is not a context. So what you want to do is look at their profile, follow them. If they've created content, if you can authentically engage in their content, engage in it. So that you can reach out and say, Meredith, I saw your post on X, Y, and Z. It was really enlightening to me. I'm always looking to connect with people to learn more. Take a look at my profile. If you think it makes sense, let's connect, right? So I put the ball back in your court. But here's the thing. I should have really read that post and really say truthfully, right? Because how many times people reach out and say, "Love your content." The new thing is, I see you're crushing it with the All Selling is Social podcast. We can help you grow, right? Reaching out to people to sell to them, it just doesn't work, right? It creates this transactional economy. And on LinkedIn, what we want to do is create a relationship. We want to start a relationship. And the way that we do that is by finding a reason to connect that's true and real, not just, I want you to be my client. And so when you're connecting, so I always view their profile, right? So that's one touch, right? So because they're going to get a notification saying that, hey, Meredith viewed your profile. Then I want to follow them. They'll get a notification about that. And then I want to look at some of their content. What can I engage authentically with? If I can't do any of those things, then I wait, right? I don't just reach out willy-nilly. And that's what so many people do, is that they reach out and just hope, if I throw so much mud against the wall, some of it's bound to stick. And that kind of brings in the cold calling aspect of LinkedIn. Like it's taking that, if I make 1,000, 100 calls, I'll get through to 10 people and I'll schedule one appointment. And that's okay with cold calling. It's okay with email because, you see a phone number, you see an email address. But when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, they see your picture, they see your name, they see your company. It's much more personal. And so what I like to say to people is go slow, slow it down. And because when you connect with someone, it's starting a conversation, right? So let's talk about if you can't send notes and you're just clicking that connect button. Okay, that's good. But if somebody comes back and asks you why you want to connect, be ready to tell them why. Because with me, anyone who sends a connection request to me and doesn't say, send a note saying this is why I want to connect. I send the same response back to all of them. It's about the only kind of automation I use on LinkedIn. I use a text expander and it says, Meredith, thank you so much for the invitation to connect. Typically, I only connect with people I've either met in person or have had engagement with here on LinkedIn. Can you tell me what it is about my profile that triggered the connection request? Best Bill,
Mhm.
right? So I put the ball back in your court to tell me why you want to connect. And that's how we have a conversation. So if I get 10 connection requests that I send that message to, five of them never respond because they don't know why they want to connect with me. Of the five that are left, it's pretty even between people selling to me and people that have an actual reason. I saw you on Meredith's podcast. I came across you here. I liked what you did here, and there's a good reason, right? They have some context. In terms of once we've connected with someone, that's where we all drop the ball, me included. What we tend to do is we connect with people and we forget all about them. And this is where I like to say we have to realize that the digital space now is the same as the face to face. COVID did that and brought us closer together. That we do so much more of this digitally now than we have in the past. And so the problem is we're so much more comfortable doing some things digitally that we would never do with people face to face, right? You never go up to someone, meet them, and start pitching your product or service right away. You'd never do that. But yet here on LinkedIn, we think that that's okay. And the same thing when we connect with people. So picture this, Meredith. We're in a room, we're in a networking room, and somebody introduces us, and you say, "Oh, hi, Bill, I'm Meredith." I say, "Oh, hi, Meredith, I'm Bill," and then I turn around and I walk away from you, right? You would think, how rude. But that's what we do with people when we connect with them, and then we never say thank you. We never do anything. We just turn and digitally walk away. And so, what I like to do is say, think of there's two things. You want to give gratitude. Thank you for becoming a part of my network. Whether you accepted, they accepted, doesn't matter. Thank you so much for being a part of my network. And then
Mhm.
think, what's the next step? And it's not so much I want to sell to you, but what can I find out about you? What can I be curious about you to start a conversation? And that's what we have to see. And what we want to do is look to take that from the digital space to the face to face, right? So we were introduced by Tom Perone. We connected on LinkedIn and then we had a Zoom call, right? And we found out more about each other. That's what needs to happen. And instead, what people are going to is, oh, great, Meredith, let me show you how I can help you grow your podcast. Not, are you looking to grow your podcast? Not, wow, your podcast looks to be doing amazing. What are you doing to make it amazing? Right? No curiosity, just like, I want to help you. Um, and so that's really where I see people really falling down is, false platitudes or they're outright lying. I had one guy reach out to me. He's the CEO of a publishing company, reached out to me and told me that him and his team had read my book. They were really impressed with it and they wanted to help me grow it. You know what the problem is?
You haven't published it yet.
I haven't published it. I've got it kind of written. My publisher would say I don't have it written yet, but that's a whole other issue, right? And so I came back to him. I said, "How can I trust you? The CEO of a company, you just lied to me." Now, did he mean to do that? No. He sent that message to hundreds, if not thousands, of people on LinkedIn who put author down. And but that's where it comes in. And now I can't trust that person. So those are just a few of the things that I see people doing wrong on the platform.
Yeah. Let me back up. You were talking about if somebody sends you a request and there's no comment with it, which often happens now with people
Yeah.
that have the free version. Like you said, they only get to do 5 personalized messages a month, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous. But
Yeah,
um, what is the mechanism that allows you to respond to them when you get a
great question.
request? Is there something next to the request? Because I haven't ever used that, and probably some
Okay.
listeners haven't either.
Yeah, great question. It really depends on whether you're using the mobile version of the desktop, right? So this is where it's different. The desktop, every invite you get, if you go to manage my invitations, there's a message. But on the mobile version, if they didn't send you a note, a message, you can't message them back, right? So what I tell people is when you work on your managing your network and responding to invites, always do it on the desktop because of that glitch. It's one of the things that LinkedIn needs to fix, but it's not a high priority for them. So
Mm.
so that's where you go. And if you look at something like Magical Text Expander, that's what I use. So that little paragraph that I read to you, that's
Yeah,
that's a template, and I just hit a couple of buttons on my keyboard and it pops up and I send that out.
great. That's great. Yeah, because that is something that happens when we get this request. And it used to be I wouldn't connect with anybody if they didn't have some kind of personalized message. And then when I discovered about this change in LinkedIn, I thought, well, this just tells me they don't have a premium account at this point. So let me not judge that too quickly.
Mm.
No, and also I love the approach for giving a reason why. I've done that for years, and that certainly increases the chances of somebody accepting your request. Now, once somebody has connected with you and you would like to have a conversation with them, what is the best way to suggest that without it coming across as, all right, I'm going to pitch you when, I want to pitch you, or having them suspect? Because I think so many people are on guard now on LinkedIn because they get pitched so often. I know that has happened to me more times than I can count. So, what's a good approach to get that relationship started and ask for that conversation?
Great question, and it's going to be different for everyone, honestly. But what you want to do is go slow. As soon as you go and Larry Levine and Selling in a Post-Trust World talks about the trust equation. I know he probably talked about it when he was on your show. And authentic relationships plus meaningful values equals trust. Well, the authentic relationship starts when you connect with the person, but it has to be built over time, and then you have to be able to show value. And what often happens is we, as salespeople, we kind of go, "Great, we're connected. Now let's go. Hey, I want to let's jump on a call. Let's see if we have any synergy together." A lot of financial advisors reach out and say, "Let's see an opportunity where we can work together." And I know what that means is they want to talk to me about my finances. They want to, and unfortunately, and if you're listening to this and you're in the finance world, unfortunately, you get lumped in with that because so many people do it. And so what you have to do is go slow. Look at their profile, look at what can you ask them questions about and be authentically curious about them, not about how you can help them, not about your solution, but what can you find out about them? And if you build that relationship to the point where then you have a conversation, it's much more, to use the word again, conversational. And it's not, I've got my sales process over here, and okay, I've got to get them from A to B to C to D. I've got to do discovery on them. I love it. My friend Jeff Bajorek says, we don't do discovery on a prospect. We do discovery with a prospect. And the way that we do that is by having a conversation. You have to be conversational with people. And so for me, it's kind of easier for me because I'm on LinkedIn and I'm connecting with them on LinkedIn. And I can look and see something about your profile that may need some tweaking. But I won't tell you that. I'll just say, "Hey, how's that working for you? Have you ever thought about this?" And I'll maybe give the alternative, and that gives them, "Well, listen, if you ever want to jump on a call, I'd be happy to share some more insights with you." And that's where you want to get to, is a point where you can say, "Hey, if you ever want to talk about this, I'd be happy to set up a call." So what can you be curious about in their life? in their world. And it may have nothing to do with business. You may see that they went skiing in Utah and maybe you're a big skier and hey, it would be great to hear more about that. Um, and you have to be really careful of your words. I almost said the L word. I'd love to hear more about that. And I don't like using that word or that phrase because yeah, I'd love to because I want to get you on a call, but also that word love, I love my wife, I love ice cream, and I love my dog. Not the same way, not the same, and so what I do is it would be great too.
Mm,
And so that's where you're looking to go, but it has to be done slowly because if you go right for the meeting, I know you're going to want to pitch me. I know it's going to happen, and I don't have time for that, right? If I was interested right away, I would say, "Hey, I see you do this. I'd like to know more about it." But
hmm.
typically people won't do that because again, you said it, they're standoffish. Salespeople, and Edelman does a trust barometer every year, and salespeople are usually near the bottom. Almost every year. In fact, do you know who's always on the bottom? Can you guess?
I would
Out
have
of
guessed salespeople, but
Well, salespeople usually the people underneath us as salespeople are members of Congress.
oh, sure.
Yeah. But you know what? Lawyers are above us. So what does that say about us? You know, because I think it was Jeffrey Gitomer who said, everyone loves to buy, but no one wants to be sold to. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to make it much more conversational. And the way we do that is we make it about them and not about us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. One sentence that I have used with great success, and it's because I am known as a connector and known as someone who likes to be of service. I will often say, I would enjoy having a conversation with you in case I know people or resources that I could connect you with. And so it's this idea of offering value. That's always, I think, a safe thing and an important thing to lead with in order to build that trust with
Y-
others, because it makes a huge difference. And you're so right. Once somebody takes an approach and they lie to you outright, or they're using automation in a way that's so
uh,
obvious that you just don't even want to you don't want anything to do with them. And that takes me to another thing that I'm really interested in getting your opinion on, which is the use of AI. Because LinkedIn prompts us all the time, would you like to use AI to help you with composing a message? And I'm thinking, no, I don't. I want to
Right.
have it be my voice. But what are you seeing in terms of ways that AI is used poorly or may possibly be used well?
This is a pet peeve of mine. I'm just going to go back to that last point you said about what you say, which is great because you talk about getting to know them so you can connect with them. So many people reach out and say, "Oh, let me know if I can introduce you to anybody in my network," like right away. Like you don't even know me.
Right.
How do you know you can trust me? Like I want to know people before I make an introduction because it's my reputation on the line just as much as the other person. So yeah, so you mentioned automation, and so let's face it, AI has become this catch-all term. It means so many different things. It's automated intelligence, it's artificial intelligence. So we'll break it down. Let's talk about automation first. Automation on LinkedIn, what people don't realize is that software companies can create automation that works on LinkedIn, but by you using it, you actually end up violating LinkedIn's terms of use, and you can be shut down. And so there are some lists out there of preferred partners that LinkedIn says it's okay to use this. There's a marketing partners list and a Sales Navigator approved partners list. And if the software you're using isn't on those lists, buyer beware, right? So that's as far as automation goes. Artificial intelligence. So yes, LinkedIn will prompt us. If you're a premier user, you have this. And what many people don't realize is most of this is Microsoft stuff. So Microsoft owns LinkedIn. They bought LinkedIn in 2016 for $26 billion. So LinkedIn's not going anywhere, folks. But so, and you said it, like it's not gonna it's gonna put it in everyone else's words but yours. I had Mark Hunter on my podcast this week, and what he said was AI is a starting tool, not a finishing tool. So if you have trouble putting your thoughts into words, AI can get you started. But if you're using it to create content, if you think it's easy to do it, and another thing Mark said on the podcast is he calls AI average intelligence, right? Because it's bringing everything from the world, like, everything from Google that it can find, and it's narrowing that all down to something, and it's the sum total of whatever on that topic. So I think you end up sounding more like everyone else when you're using AI rather than yourself. So as Mark said, it's a great thing to start with. All right, you know what? I'm going to use this. I'm going to put in these topics and I'm going to ask for a synopsis of this blog that I've done so that I can create a LinkedIn post. But what I'm going to do is then look at that and then put it in my own words. If you're using if you're using artificial intelligent commenting tools, I would go look at the LinkedIn user agreement. In November, they actually changed it to say that automated or artificial intelligence commenting tools are against LinkedIn's terms of use and you can be shut down. Just happened to somebody that I work with, and they emailed me, "Hey, I just went to log into LinkedIn and I can't. It's telling me that I violated LinkedIn's terms and I have to jump through and I had to help them jump through some hoops. And it took them like 2 days to get their profile back because they were using something that we never figured out what it was they're using. But you have to be very, very careful. I'm not a huge AI person. Don't know very much about ChatGPT. I basically use it when I do a podcast. I take the entire transcript, I throw it into ChatGPT, and I ask for a summary in 100
Mhm.
words with 3 points, right? So I think that that's okay because it's taking actual words and it's doing that. But if you're using it to create content to post just from give me give me a 150 word LinkedIn post on this topic, you have to go through. It actually takes you more time. You have to go through and read that, and anything they reference, you have to check because AI lies. Because there's lies on the internet. I know that might shock a lot of people, but there are lies on the internet, and it doesn't know the difference. And so, really, I think it takes longer to use that. And if you want to get ideas for posts, just look at your emails, look at your clients, look at the problems your clients are having. Those are posts. Those are things that people are struggling with. Talk to your clients, find out what content would help you that I can create. That's human intelligence. You want to know how you can create some talking points when you're talking to prospects. Ask your clients, what's the value that I bring you on a regular basis, right? So now you're collecting actual real data from real people, and you can say, if you were my prospect, I say, well, Meredith, I've been talking to a lot of VP sales that I work with, and they say right now with the economy the way it is, they're really struggling to find new prospects. Is that something you're struggling with? And you could say yes or no. You're probably going to say yes because all VPs of sales, I haven't yet to talk to a VP of sales. No, you know what? We have way too many prospects right now. We really need to dial it back a little bit, right? But what you're showing is your value. You're showing the value that of the people you work with, not some canned answer from ChatGPT that may or may not be right, or from some other AI tool that's used for AI outreach. Um, yeah, not a big fan of AI.
Mm. It's just so easy to detect when something has been generated by AI. Um, and I've given people feedback before where they tag me in a post that they make or an article that they've written, and there's no heart in it. It's just so detached. Where would anybody want to engage with that? So I think that it goes back to being authentic, being real, and looking at, like you just said, what do I know? What do I know
Yeah.
about my clients? And people who are in leadership roles and using LinkedIn to engage with peers or others in other organizations, this whole idea of being able to bring value to the people that you want to position yourself with, I think is a key point. Let's go granular for a minute because one of the things in your course that I found intriguing was our headline. So this is the description we put, and I forget how many characters we have, but you had some very specific and helpful ideas about what to go in there and also where to place it, like title versus other descriptors. So give us some tips on creating an effective headline.
Yeah, so your headline's 220 characters with spaces, which is quite that's a lot.
Mhm.
And typically what LinkedIn defaults to is title and company. So business owner at DigiSales, account executive, salesperson at Acme Industries. That's not descriptive. That doesn't catch people's attention. The top part of your profile is really it's like the headline of the newspaper. It's that usually the top above the fold section of a newspaper is going to have the best story, the best picture. Why? Because the editors and the publishers want people to buy that newspaper. What we want people to do is we want to catch their attention and we want them to read more. We want to cause some curiosity. And so the way we do that is with our headline because that's what they see in searches and they see about the first 10 words. So I wouldn't put your title in there because that's not, unless they're looking to sell to you, your VP of sales, then, but we want to connect with potential clients, people that we can help. So what can you put there that's going to say, that's going to resonate, right? We talked about resonate, educate, differentiate, communicate. This is the resonate part. Who is it that you're helping? And I've kind of shied away more with this is what kind of do you have a saying? Like I have LinkedIn for Humans, right? That's my saying. Um, if you have something there, put that's going to cause some curiosity because what
Mhm.
I'm seeing now is people making these outlandish boasts about all the revenue they're bringing in for coaches. Like I get a lot of people reaching out to me because I kind of list myself as a coaching consultant. And so helping coaches book 85 meetings per day in, with little effort or something like that, or creating 85 million views on YouTube. Okay. And I immediately, so when we look at that, we kind of go, sure. We roll our eyes because if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be
Yeah.
true. And so I would avoid using those kind of outlandish boasts. But who is it that you help? And how can you convey to them the way that you can help them? That's a call to read. That they read that and they go, okay, now I get it. And what about yourself can you put in there? So I have dog lover, and I get people that actually reach out to me and say, hey, I want to connect with you because you're a dog lover. I have one guy that I worked with, and he loved vintage cars and guitars. And so that's it, cars and guitars.
Mhm.
Car and guitar lover, I think is what he put there. It makes us more human because we are humans first. And so you want something there that's going to catch people's attention. I'd
Mhm.
avoid using too many emojis. I know people that go crazy with emojis. They're not going to really help you with searches. You have to realize that that's not searchable. Another thing is if you're using some kind of formatted text, like there's some software out there now where you can put italicized bold text in a headline. LinkedIn doesn't see that, right? So that's like emojis. And so if you're using that and it's a keyword, it's not going to be searchable. So
Mm.
I would stay away from that. And if you're using it in posts, just to let you know, if you do more than 12 of those types of characters, special characters, the algorithm can actually depress the post,
Mm.
can actually punish you on that. But really with your headline, you really want to catch people's attention and get them to read more.
Mhm. That's great. Yeah, I just got an idea because I've been an avid bird watcher for more than 20 years. So I think I'm going to be adding avid bird watcher to my.
And for you, putting a bird emoji there would be perfectly fine, right? So that would be okay. When I worked with the Selling from the Heart team, I used to have a heart in my headline. I don't like a lot of them, but again, that's a personal thing.
So that's so good and it's so helpful. So let's go back a minute to these premium accounts because you were talking about the fact that um, now there's the requirement, really, the pay to play, if you want to be able to do this kind of personalization of more than 5 messages in a month, which I think is a ridiculous number. So describe what the options are for people that might want to consider one of the
Yeah,
premiums.
and so some of the things are like what's just came out is your banner image. In order to change your banner image now, if you have a banner image and you want to change it, it's going to prompt you to try premium. We're just hearing this now. It's kind of it's crazy,
Hmm.
and so there's career, which is the and I don't know the prices because they changed. I
Yeah,
think it's right around and there's two different prices. There's a price per month if you pay the whole year in advance, and then there's a higher
right,
price. So
right.
career is the least, and that gives you the least amount of options. And I believe it's that you can send as many connection requests as you want with notes and you can also see for a year who's viewed your profile. The next up is business premium, and that's like in the $79 to $89 a month range. And for that, you get not only the who's viewed your profile, being able to send unlimited amount of notes in your connection request, you get a link, a custom button on your profile for like visit, view your website, and that follows you around. You get extras in your featured section. You can put recommendations and other parts of your profile in the
Mm,
featured section. You get a custom away message. And one thing you get with the business section that's brand new now is a scrolling head banner image, up to 5 images that scroll. And
I learned that the other day, and I thought
yeah, and
it's got to be new.
yes, it is. So it's just come out and they're rolling it out. And listen, when LinkedIn launches new features, no one get ever not everyone gets it all at once. They roll it out because there's a billion users to do that with. Then the next is Sales Navigator. So there's a whole recruiter side of things that I know nothing about because I don't
Yeah,
live in that world.
to look
Um,
at.
but
Mhm.
but Sales Navigator, so there's two different levels of Sales Navigator, core and then advanced. The difference is smart links. So with the advanced, you have something called smart links where, for example, if I had resources for people here, we could put a link up there and they would go and have, a slide PDF and a video. I would get notified every time they viewed that. All right. So the difference there, though, is the difference between like $119 a month and $179 a month.
Mhm.
And so it's much more. And believe it or not, Sales Navigator people don't get the scrolling banner image.
Hmm.
Something I complained about, but it doesn't matter to them. And Sales Navigator, if you're in sales, Sales Navigator can be a very powerful tool. There's 17 search fields in the basic free version of LinkedIn. There's like 36 in Sales Navigator, and you can create custom lists. You have a customized news feed that's based on the accounts and people that you've saved as leads, which is huge. And then you can do in-mails through them, which is some people will tell you those are really valuable. I don't think they are.
I agree
Every
with you.
yeah, every in-mail I get is spam.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly right. Well, thank you for clarifying those. So, before we wrap up, I want you to talk a little bit about your course because you've packed so much good information in there, and I'd love my listeners to know about its availability.
So it's called the social selling compass, and basically I have four items that I train on, and so I needed something with four. The compass had four, so so there's four different modules. The first is on profile, which we just kind of talked a lot about, how to create a value centric profile. And then we go through all the different sections of the profile. The second is building a quality network, because everything you do on LinkedIn is really controlled by your network. When you post something, it only goes out to a certain percentage of your network. And
Mm.
so connecting the right way is important. Then the third module is all about content, how to leverage it, how to use it, and to go from from content to conversations, and that's the fourth module, all about conversations. How do we have conversations? How do we move from the digital space to the face to face? And I've got some interviews on there from with Larry Levine about how he takes conversations from LinkedIn and moves them offline because he does it in a great way. And then also Aaron Hazakostas, who talks a lot about why trust matters and why authenticity matters in conversations. So there's a total of 40 videos. So and it's self-directed. And what I'll do is make to your listeners available my launch price, which is $279, or they can do 3 monthly payments of $99 each. And I'll provide the link for the store for them where they
Great.
can take a look at that. And you've had a look at it. So what have your thoughts been about the
Oh,
course?
I think it's really valuable. I've sampled some from each section, and I like the specifics and the examples that you give from your own profile and others to show us what this looks like, why it works, and the rationale for the benefits of doing it a particular way. So I would highly recommend that. I think that 297 is a great investment for what someone can learn and the potential benefit, whether you are in sales or just want to up level what you're doing on LinkedIn. If that's your primary social media platform, I think Bill's course would be a perfect addition for you to go deeper on how to up level what you're doing
Yes.
on LinkedIn. So thank you for making that offer. We'll definitely put the link in the show notes page. So, Bill, how can people connect with you
Oh, well,
and
LinkedIn, of course.
about your program?
Yeah, so find me on LinkedIn. You'll see me on LinkedIn, and if you're able to send a note, just tell me that you've heard me here on Meredith's podcast, or when I message you back, be ready to say that, and I'm happy to add you there. You can also see me at digisalesny.com, so that's my Digisales Academy page, and also look for the All Selling is Social podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and also Spotify. And we'll look forward. I'll talk with Meredith, and we'll definitely get her on the podcast sometime soon.
Sounds great. Bill, thank you so much for being my guest today. And I love all the things that you're doing, bringing together your years of experience with LinkedIn, what works, what doesn't, and helping us all learn how to use that very powerful platform most effectively. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to connecting with your listeners.
Thanks for tuning into my podcast. Now head over to growstrongleaders.com and check out the powerful tools we've created to help leaders strengthen their character and communication skills. Until next time, I'm Meredith Bell.